This week on Induction Noise. Niku does a mad skid.
And they're like, "Oh, Rad, man, that was so cool. You know, you saw that gnarly skid I did over there."
Neil reverts to form.
I drove a Camry.
Andre does some self-improvement.
But I've got a decent piece of kit there, finally.
And I do a little bit of reflection.
I am an asshole. So, welcome guys, back to the studio for
reality.
season 2
Yeah,
of
back to
Induction
reality.
Noise. We're back!
It's like we never left.
It's
Yeah.
like we never left.
Just kind of got our time manager episode, but I mean, we'll figure that out quite
Time
quickly.
management is like, yeah, you know,
Sounds boring.
sounds very like the kind of thing an accountant would worry about.
If you are hearing a slight whine in the background, hopefully Quentin would be working his
Manage.
He's working his
Manage.
How much
Working?
have you been drinking today?
Funny enough, nothing. But
Stay
yeah,
drinking
hopefully
should
Quentin will work his magic. But it is very hot in Quentin's Faraday cage.
Yeah, it is boiling hot in here. It must be at least 40 degrees. With all the equipment running, it's just getting hotter and hotter all the time. So we
Zero
have got
chill.
a fan running.
It's our biggest
but
fan.
I'm pretty sure that I can probably do a little bit of noise reduction on it and hopefully tune it out so that it doesn't destroy the
So
recording.
no induction noise.
No
Some
induction
reduction
noise on induction. This is getting way
Welcome
too
to the next
complicated.
episode of Induction Noise.
We've done what we normally did and spoke for 4 hours about everything that we should have recorded without recording it. So
Yeah, it's been a long day and we
So
haven't
you get to
started
hear what's
yet.
left.
stuff that we haven't argued about yet.
So today's episode is generally just a free chat, guys. I think we've been away from the studio for a while. I know I've certainly driven quite a few cars that we spoke about last season that I hadn't driven before. I'm pretty sure you guys have driven some interesting stuff in the meantime. And you've probably done some interesting stuff in the meantime. I don't know if you guys have been traveling. You know, we pretend to be friends, but we don't really talk to each other when we're not in the studios.
Actually, yeah.
Some of us have been
So,
around.
Andre, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? What have I been driving and what have I been up to? So one of the things that I've been driving that I think we never got into the last episode was that was towards the end of my Italy trip last year. I got to drive an F8 Tributo in Maranello. It's the first time driving a Ferrari in Maranello, which was pretty cool.
Driving it at home.
Yes, in its hometown, and it was quite an interesting experience. I spent a few minutes arguing with the instructor Ferrari guy that the 458's a better car than the F8 Tributo, and he's like, no, this one's better. I'm like, no,
I
it's
don't know what
fast.
you talk
I'm like,
about.
no, it's a fast, but it's not better.
My
No.
mama will slap you in the face.
You are a disgrace to us Italians.
Get out of this car.
So that was fun. What wasn't so fun is there was a lot of traffic, so I had to wait for people to drive before I could go.
But isn't Italian traffic pretty much just like a racetrack anyway?
No, there was traffic. There was cars in the way, right? But if the cars go, then you can go. There's seems to be this gentleman's agreement.
If you're in a
Maranello.
Ferrari, they get
If
out
you're
your
in a
way.
Ferrari, you can pretty much do what you want, and you can drive at any. He's there's a camera that everyone knows about, but before and after the camera, you can do whatever you want. So people
Sweet.
generally just go and hoon Ferraris up and down in the street in front of the Ferrari museum. You just hear the Puro song just came out then. I probably saw 12 of them just hammering down that road. You just hear V12 screaming.
It sounds like Mexico without the diarrhea.
I don't know. I haven't been to Mexico. I'll take your
mean,
word. Well, I mean, I haven't eaten anything there, right? I've driven there, but I haven't eaten anything there.
I quite like Mexican food, actually.
I haven't stayed long enough to eat anything. But that was interesting because the F8 to me was, I didn't really want to drive it because I was looking for the actually looking forward to rather 296, which is something a bit different. But they didn't have any, so the F8 was the best I could do. And it's both it's a bit of a paradox. It's insanely powerful, like you don't need that much power on the road. It's like 720 horsepower or something, but it's also too accessible. It's too easy to drive. It wasn't a difficult car to drive. You don't have the drama. So it's a very capable car, but it almost I want to say Porsche-like in the lack of drama.
If anyone could ever make 700 plus horsepower boring, Ferrari have managed it.
Yeah.
It's not boring. It's not. It's a crazy powerful car, but
It's just not exciting.
It doesn't excite me as much as a 458 does. So yeah, it's. I wouldn't buy it, but it's a very capable car. I mean, you can drive that. The instructor said they drive that car. He drives that car 350 k's an hour. Solid. The car's straight as an arrow. He's got a friend who's got one that's slightly modified that regularly drives it at 370 k's an hour.
Regularly.
That's just,
and it's stable.
That's too much.
It's too much. But it's very easy car to drive fast, which is kind of misses the point. It mustn't be that easy. It must be a bit more difficult.
But I think the problem is that modern supercars and sports cars are getting so fast, and the manufacturers are kind of cognizant of the fact that the guys who buy them can't necessarily drive them. So they have to make them easy to drive. Because, I
Less
mean...
people get killed. I mean, I get that.
Yeah,
But
it's going to be a really bad headline when... I mean, look at what happened after Paul Walker died in the Porsche. People were suddenly going, oh, no, there's the Carrera GT is such a...
The value shot up.
Yeah,
Remember one of the Carrera GT?
Everyone was just
after
like,
they-
the Carrera GT is such a dangerous car, and...
That's why people wanted it. Because they thought...
But the F8, by the sounds of it, is not dangerous at all. It's not scary
Look,
or intimidating.
it will kill you, but it's
going to warn you before it does.
It's not easy to get killed in it.
Do you think it's memorable compared to the other cars you've driven?
No. It's memorable for just being the most powerful thing that I've ever been in. But driving a Lambo STO that just your ears bleed and it just screams. It's not as fast.
Emotion.
It's not nearly as fast as the Ferrari. It costs as much, I think. But it's much more fun. It's just it's an experience.
Well, that's something that I've noticed with a lot of the, in my job, I get to drive, obviously, some pretty cool cars. And I must say that there's a fun element that's missing from a lot of cars.
They're too grown up.
hugely capable and incredibly quick, but they're just not...
They are better cars. They're better all-round cars.
By all means, they're a better car, and I'm sure the F8 is a phenomenal piece of engineering.
As a car that is you can basically use as a daily driver. It's comfortable
But
and still do 350 k's an hour. Amazing.
But that and a Lotus 7 parked next to each other in my garage, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm awake, I want to go for a drive. I'm not going to take the F8.
I don't know. I like a 7, but that's going to be difficult. Ferrari 458 or that one.
Well, yeah.
I know what I'm going to take.
458, but I feel like, since the 488 and maybe the F8 Tributor, it's kind of like, maybe they're trying to be too McLaren-esque because, McLaren has always done the V8 turbo, the turbo thing. I mean, they're supremely fast, but if I think about mid-engine Ferrari, I think nowadays 296 because it's, from all the reviews, it's amazing.
That's what I wanted to
amazing
drive,
racing, racing success already. But they've kind of I don't know. That's
Grown
sort of
up.
this mid pack between the 458 and now the 296. They seem to have the hype has died down a bit. Maybe they released them too quickly. I don't know. What was the sort of shelf life of the F8 actually? The
That's
Tributo?
true because the F8 was almost like this.
In between.
It,
was an in-between,
It was a
yeah.
bit of an anonymous in-betweener, and it's actually...
Very
it's
nice.
actually-
The rear end, the rear end front, really
the
nice looking
styling
car.
is interesting. I think it's a bit too busy for me, but a lot of people like it. But it's an interesting because it's actually a brilliant car in terms of its ability and whatever, and it's the last iteration of the V8 rear end Ferrari. So that's the Tributors, like the last of that generation. That started with the 308, right?
Yeah.
But it's just
I read a really interesting article the other about the 308 and how the DNA of that car can be felt through every single mid-engine Ferrari.
all the V8.
And when I say I read an interesting article, I mean I wrote an interesting article. So if you still if you know, if you're out there and you're listening and you're one of these people who can still read, you're welcome to go check out Carbs and Coffee. We did a very cool article on the 308, and the 308 is a car that I enjoy immensely. It's such a fun thing to drive, and it just goes to show that you do not need 800 horsepower to have fun.
How many of them have you got for sale at the moment? Do you have one for sale by any chance?
I've got one for sale.
Only one.
But if I have to be brutally honest, the 328 is actually a vastly superior car. It's actually a much.
It just doesn't emotively. It just doesn't look. It doesn't stir the Magnum emotions.
Yeah, I mean,
and I know Magnum had a
it's
308
not a
and
Magnum.
328. He had the 328 as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
But it's not
he's
the same.
famous for having the 308.
Yeah.
But the 328 genuinely is. It's a much better
bit
car.
more polished and
Little
better.
differences between the two. But when you get out of the 328, you have a smile on your face. It's a lot of fun, that thing. But like I said, from the 308 to the 488, which is the latest V8 mid-engine Ferrari that I've ever driven, there's a feel to them.
It's definitely some.
There's a
continuous
DNA
kind of-
that runs continuously throughout that range. And you don't really see that with other sports cars. Like if you drive an old 911 and you drive a new 911, they feel like completely different cars. There's
but I
very
guess the
little
Porsche
that
guys
connects
will
the
the
two.
Porsche guys will probably say there are elements.
Oh,
that
yeah.
are design elements. But anyway, that's what the Porsche guys say. Next.
The Beetle guys, I mean, what? Yeah,
It
and
does feel like a
the-
Beetle. No.
After the Ferrari, anything else?
What I
interesting?
drove. I'm trying to think what I drove.
You went to New York, but I don't believe you
Yes,
drove
no.
anything there.
Right, guys, just a quick word about sponsorship this season. We've actually got a couple of other sponsors coming in this season to help us carry the costs of running the podcast and hosting things. But we'll introduce those guys later on in the season. Today's episode is, of course, brought to you by Master Panelbeaters. Master Panelbeaters is still our preferred structural repair center out in Montague Gardens. And if you had listened to season 1 of our fantastic podcast, you might have caught the episode where Stephen from Master Panelbeaters actually came and joined us in the studio. And you would have been able to tell from that Stephen is a genuine car guy, which makes a huge difference because you can take your car to one of these sausage factory panel beaters if you want to, but they're not car people. They're going to patch it up, they're going to spray over it, and just do the quickest job they can for the least amount of effort. Whereas every single car that I've ever taken to Master Panel Beaters has come back with more work having been done to the car than what I had originally requested. So if Stephen and his team spot something on the car that you didn't even talk about, 9 times out of 10, they'll still fix that as well. Which is just great because not only do they go above and beyond, but the standard to which they do it is the standard to which a car guy would want it to be done. So if you have any body work, paint work, structural work that needs doing on your car, check out Master Panel Beaters on our Facebook page, on Instagram. You can also find Master Panel Beaters on their own Facebook page. And let's get back to the show.
So I went to New York in Jan, and it was very cold. It's the coldest that I got in my whole life. I've been in Chicago, but it
I
was
think Neil has a visual demonstration of how cold it was.
Yeah, that's about it. And at least we've
Neil,
got video now
we've
for
got
season
video.
2.
Neil
Yeah,
has
that's the other thing that I
Neil
haven't
has
even
got a-
mentioned. We
Neil
have
has a-
video
Yeah,
now.
we're trying it out. We're not
It's
saying
very
it's
good.
gonna
about
be
that actually.
perfect.
Because I'm like studying and doing like I actually
Neil is playing with a shrinking microphone.
Well, on the topic of a micro yacht, so that actually came from Bali, from where I had a very fun experience.
Tell us about
Bali.
your Bali driving.
Yeah, so there I drove something. What do you call it? Quintessential or what?
Quintessential.
Quintessentially JDM. Like you can't get more JDM than that. It's literally.
You drove a
you
Supra.
Yeah.
Is that a Supra?
So,
Is that a Supra?
Is
manual 5-speed? No.
An MR2.
Mitsubishi?
Close.
Evo?
Close with the Mitsubishi.
Uh,
Some would say the Mitsubishi comes from this car, but no one actually says
Evo.
that.
Oh, so it's a Subaru.
Who says that?
It's named after a sword,
okay.
but it's not a bike. But it is
Excalibur.
a Suzuki.
Suzuki Dagger.
So a Suzuki Katana. They call it a katana in
was that shiv?
Bali. But it's actually we know them as a Jimny, right? But it's the
No, we don't.
SJ40, or
We
they
know
just call
that.
it
We
the
know it as a
Suzuki
samurai.
SJ40.
Yeah, Samurai.
As a samurai.
Or the SJ140, I think.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
the
SJ410.
SJ410 or something like that. So yeah, I drove a Suzuki Katana in Bali, and I absolutely fell in love with that car. And at the end of the trip, when I had to give it back, I was actually pissed off because I was like, no one's gonna look after this car like I did. It's so brilliant. I literally fell in love with this car.
What engine does it? A
So don't tell me you're
1300
now
or a-
also like being infected with this Jimny-itis.
100%.
Because
100%.
everyone seems to be just going Jimny mad.
No, but this isn't a Jimny though. It's better.
Well, this is,
I prefer. It's,
you
it's
can call
more,
a spade,
it's more
but it's still a
quintessential
Jimny.
Suzuki than
It's
a Jimny.
JDM, dude. We all know JDM is cool. That's a fact.
So what engine does it have?
I don't know. It's got a four-cylinder.
It's adequately powered.
It's got adequate power.
So you're now a
it's-
typical Jimny driver as well.
You don't know squat about the thing you're driving.
Yeah, what
I-
engine does
I
it have?
think
I
it
don't
was
know.
like I think it's part of like their K
petrol.
vehicles, so it's probably like a 1 liter 4-cylinder or 3-cylinder something.
Nico's going to go to a trance party now, have a tent on the roof, you know.
Start chopping up mushrooms from the backyard and
Yeah,
smoking them.
exactly. Like
So
these
when we
parties
start-
where they only sell water, there's no bars there. There's no sell alcohol there.
So
Then the water comes in little packets, the plastic baggies.
when we got there, our Uber obviously came and picked us up at the airport first, and we
What was the Uber?
started. It was one of these Toyota Altezza extended, some
Oh.
Chinese, Japanese thing. Because a
Like
lot
the
of
modern
their cars,
Kentucky Rounder.
Yeah, a lot of their cars comes directly from Japan because it's like
Yeah.
just over the pond. So they've got a lot of these Japanese cars that we don't get, and you'll see them more in Lesotho and those type of places. But every car you get in Bali has a custom interior. It can be the most shit box Cressida that's driving there, and it will have this diamond stitch leather dashboard and everything.
All
is,
the bling.
All the bling. You
Do they
can
have furry dice?
Oh yes.
Nice.
Oh yes. They've
Furry
got
dice with
furry
diamonds.
Classy.
And funny enough, a lot of dropped cars. I think I still sent you guys a photo of like a extended Yaris looking thing that was literally dropped on its nuts.
Now, how was the roads?
Funny enough, they were very smooth. It was
Okay.
like
That's where you can
so
have
the
the-
roads. Yeah, the roads itself was very well maintained. I was.
Okay.
But did you venture out of the tourist areas?
Yes, I did. And even there, it was very well maintained, just very narrow.
Okay.
Super
And that's why
narrow.
the katana is quite
You
handy.
see, that's why the katana was quite handy because it's quite small. So we asked the Uber driver, or they call it Gojek or something. Asked him, listen here, what's the speed limit? You know, we didn't really see a lot of speed signs or anything. And he was just like, no limit? I was like, okay, so no speed limit. He says, you'll never be able to go above like 60 kilometers an hour anyway.
There's space.
Because there's,
Traffic.
well, the traffic, there's always a scooter in front of you.
Challenge
So,
accepted.
so you really need to try and focus to first not hit a school of like 8 people on a scooter. I think the most me and my wife counted was 6 people with their chickens or something on the back, and
the chickens. Like all
their-
people have chickens there.
and
With the
their,
chickens.
With the chickens, like,
their
we travel with our
groceries
KFC,
in
bro.
the front, you know. So 6 people, groceries, chickens. You know,
Scooter.
that was like the
Like a double
max-
cab scooter.
You see, it's double cab scooter. And I was quite scared first because everyone said, like, oh, you can't drive in Bali, you're crazy, you're going to die, you're going to kill someone, you know, whatever.
Better than a scooter.
I love
rent
it.
scooters
Yeah,
and
dude,
drive them.
exactly. Like the Australians like renting scooters there, and then they're the first people to either kill someone or get killed. And they're like, oh, rad, man, that was so cool. You know, you saw that gnarly skid I did over there with my scooter.
Was
and
that an Australian accent?
I don't know what the hell it was, but
For a second
about
there,
how
I
they
went into the
sounded.
twilight
Good
zone.
day,
I don't know what the hell's going
that's
on
how
here.
they sounded.
Must
And
be
you
very
can
drunk.
easily spot them with the mullet.
Oh yeah, they love
see
the mullet.
The mullet and the earrings, you know, it's
They
a
love the
strange.
And the
mullet.
g'day, mate.
Yeah,
G'day,
and they're
mate.
like, g'day, mate. You see that gnarly skid I did over there, mate? You know, and then it's just cool. So,
Kudos for having another go at that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so
Keep working on that one over the break.
the hoot is a very important piece in
Okay.
Bali because
Yeah.
it's not to. When you get pissed off, you use it, but it's like a long hoot. Anything more than 10 seconds, they know you're pissed
More
off.
than 10 seconds.
But if you just like beep beep, you know, you
I don't know. I've
just
never
like,
sat in
okay.
traffic, someone hooting at me, and I
It's
go,
just
"How
to-
long is this hoot?"
Yeah, exactly.
Just so I know exactly what they mean.
So if
Start
I
the
take
stopwatch.
let's open the chart
So-
in the glove box and like this is exactly 7 seconds. This means that this person wants to turn left,
So
basically.
He's
a
turning
quick
left,
route
yeah.
like that is just to tell a
Okay.
scooter like you are passing him right now.
Yeah, I'm coming
Because
for you.
It might be a 2-lane, but you'll be like 2 cars wide and 10 scooters wide in a 2-lane road. It's madness. It's honestly madness. And a red robot isn't a red robot unless you want it to be a red robot. But if you're coming up to a red robot and you hoot quickly, you might as well go over it. If there's cars coming, they must just stop. That's fine.
That
And if
sounds,
you're going into a circle, so we would usually say like, okay, you come into a circle, you would, you know,
Let
cars
the
that's
cars
coming
go?
from the right must
Yeah.
first come past. No. Yeah, you just drive into the circle. No matter what cars is there, you just drive into it, give a honk, and they must stop, even though they're already in the circle. But if someone does that to you, obviously you need to either play chicken or brake. That's basically the essence of Bali. So it's very laid back, no rules really. Not that you can break a lot of rules. Just hoot and say like, I'm here, you know.
sounds a bit like Rome, but with slower cars.
Yeah, very slow cars. And that
Sounds a
that-
bit dangerous if you ask me.
I mean, it was
That's
fine.
really upsets Gwen. He's sitting here frowning. Like it's like this is not. I want to talk about motoring safety. You know, like
And
it's
like,
just.
Well,
I
I'm
mean-
still desperate to do an episode on
We'll do
road
it.
safety, but
But first, I'm gonna
we-
enjoy my
we-
experience with my
we
Suzuki
need
Katana.
to just have the appropriate authorities.
Appropriate
mind.
authorities, but you
Yeah,
know,
you
would
know-
your wife like to come on
No,
the podcast?
here's the thing, right? This is a little off topic, but I do want to do a road safety episode. But
you can do it. We
We're
said it's
all
fine.
we're all petrol heads and sports car drivers, so it might come off as very one-sided and very combative if we don't have someone here from
To balance the
traffic department
conversation.
or something like that. Someone who can talk with some authority about what actually goes on as opposed to what we perceive goes on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to balance the conversation and to sort of make it more
Educated.
Like Bali.
no, just
Yeah, like
just
Bali.
more. What's the word? Not authentic, but authoritative almost. You know, make it
Believable.
You're making up big
The
words.
funny thing is-
believable. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I mean, that sort of behavior,
Credibility.
that sort of behavior in Southeast Asia is like part of the culture. But yeah, it's like breaking the law.
This is road rage.
Road rage. Yeah.
So what you're saying basically is when we go on a very fast breakfast run next time, we don't have to go to Mexico, we can go to Bali.
We can go to Bali.
Because there's no
yes.
speed limit in Bali.
Yeah, we can. There's no speed limit in Bali. We might just hit like a scooter or two.
Well, that's
But,
you know,
You know, it's
better
not,
than cyclists on.
Yeah.
on
Occupational hazard.
Yeah.
it's not that bad.
So Neil, what have you been up to, bud?
I drove a Camry. No, jokes aside. no, like-
Oh, I got excited there for a minute.
Here we go again. Starting season
No,
2.
actually,
I did.
sticking to small cars. Nothing. I mean, actually, nothing too major. Like the year ended, racing season ended last year. Kind of like already contemplating what to do this year. One car that I think in way back we discussed in part of episode 1 was actually the Germany. Subsequently, to that, funny enough, I drove it quite a bit over the past few months.
Willingly or
haven't-
not?
Willingly. Still haven't changed my mind on the open road
Yeah, I don't think
behavior
that's gonna
of
happen.
it. Still love driving it in town. Realize
So
that
we've got a guest coming on next week, right? Who's very good at setting up cars for handling and driver feel. Maybe we should set him a challenge of
Can
setting
you-
up a Jimny that actually drives down a
Drives-
highway without feeling like it's going to die.
Yeah, or like when you've got a crosswind, feel that you've got to, turn the steering wheel at about a 45-degree angle to keep it going straight.
It's like a windsurfer. You're driving
yeah.
it.
I still enjoy it. Still enjoy it. Like, I mean, I think there's still I would still consider buying one if I could. If I could, but yeah.
But I
highway
mean, in
driving is
town,
questionable.
it makes sense. In
Yeah.
town, I think it's a great fun little thing. And then obviously when you go out into the sticks, they're surprisingly good off-road because they
Very
weigh
good
so
off-road.
much.
Yeah. Very good.
So I think it can be a really fun thing. But obviously the highway driving is a bit of an issue because I mean the Defender was like that as well. The Defender's bloody hopeless on the highway.
I love my Defender.
Yeah.
There's funny enough, I don't know if you've seen it, but in Japan they've got a time attack class exclusively for SJ Suzuki's and
the
for
katana.
Jimny's and for
For the
Jimny's.
katana.
Yeah.
There's a class for these.
And is
small
it
little, they're on
is it
three
a
wheels. Like
is it a dirt hill climb? Or
no,
like
it's
No,
like
it's on
in
the road,
Tsukuba around Tsukuba.
but why would you want to do that?
that's Japan for you.
It's
I
like
guess.
lawnmower racing or something, right? It's just.
But I must
why?
say, I can't remember when or where or how it happened, but at one stage, have you ever watched Japanese game shows?
Yes.
Oh, they guys are absolutely
Takeshi's
off their
Castle.
rockers.
There's got to be something in the water there, guys. 'cause
Off their rockers. And it's all that just they run
watch-
into these. They get whacked by these huge hammers.
Yes, yes.
Into
beat the
water.
crap out of, and you know,
rock
people.
rolls over them.
We have noot for noot, and there people die. You know?
Exactly. Daar is 1005 in 'n ry. Doesn't
He's
seem as
50
hazardous.
rinkies for you. He's for your gun. Goomph. Like, their TV is done
crazy.
differently over there, and I suppose motorsports as well.
I mean, everything's done differently, dude. It's a mad place.
Yeah, well, talking about stuff that's slightly different. I mean, one thing I did indulge myself with a little bit that's not, sort of traditional petrolhead, but in other automotive hobbies was I got bored over the holiday, and I don't know how many of you guys, I mean, some of you, we've spoken about like die-cast cars before, like mainly Hot Wheels. And I walk into, I follow a few groups just out of interest sake, and I walk into a disc game the one day. And I thought to myself, there's these odd bins, and lo and behold, here I find 4 GTV Hot Wheels,
Which I've been searching
which everyone has been looking
so
for.
badly.
People that
That we
maybe
paid
some of the
$200
listeners.
for.
That's
Yeah.
the
Paid
thing. No
250
one
bucks
has
for
been
it.
looking at this game.
Yeah, so funny enough, that's what I caught. Like someone in one of the groups said, never guess where I found this. I found this at this game, George. And I thought, maybe let me go and try it. And it freaking hooked me for a couple of weeks. That's all I did. Was I would take a drive, and when I had nothing to do, I would get on the scooter in Cape Town, go around, and I thought to myself, let me not go to the toy shops because everyone's going to go to the toy
Everyone
shops.
goes
I went to
I
all
think
the
going to
most
be proud
obscure,
upon this uncle walking around the toy shop.
feeling going through it. And I think I bought about 20 just
we
over
go.
the same holiday, different Hot Wheels. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of now looking back, I'm I'm a little bit over it now.
So you
But
developed a
that's-
toy car problem over there.
I developed a toy car problem, yeah, and then I kind of
But you got over it real quick.
So
I
these
still
groups
have
that you
issue.
say you follow, is one of them a support group for people who got addicted
yeah,
to toy
no,
cars?
it's mainly just then you started looking at what some of these things go for in the second-hand market. Then I thought to myself, yeah. So I think one day I spent about an hour at Checkers in Sea Point.
And you realize that your time is maybe worth more than
Yeah,
that.
and it's I walked out and I called my wife and I said, this is not really worth it. What have I just done? Fiddle through all these sort of cars, looking at it.
That's an hour
It
of
was
your life you will never
I
get
never
back.
get back. Anyway, it was holiday. I had some time, so
I don't know. I'm still not over it.
So
Every
you
time
go,
I get
you
into
go
a shop,
to
I still
Italy,
look
you
at
go
it.
to Bali, you go to
Checkers and Sea Point.
Check is the toy section.
We're a well-traveled crowd.
And Q, where'd you go? What did you drive?
I did some exciting stuff over the holidays. I worked
Oh,
throughout.
wow.
Yeah.
But you work with some cool cars.
So
yeah,
yeah,
I get-
you don't have such a
my-
desktop
Big-
job like we do,
Yeah, my job is actually quite cool because I get to drive some cool cars. And notably, I drove some of the cars that we mentioned in season 1 that I hadn't driven before. One of them was a G63.
There we go. Now
Okay.
we're talking.
So
Top
now
G
we
stuff we're
talking
talking about.
about
here.
if you rewind to season 1, I may have said that they're rubbish.
And I said they my dirty secret, and I love them.
I may have alluded to the idea that they are exclusively bought by drug lords and the kind of people that you don't necessarily want to introduce to your sainted mother.
But that hasn't changed, right?
No, not really. No. Look, I must admit, it does put a smile on your face. It it is one of those cars that is just so stupid that you
So
can't help
stupid
but
that you
giggle
love
at
it.
yourself as you drive along. I don't think that is the reason that most G-Wagon owners own them.
Because as a car, it sucks, right?
As a car, it's awful. I mean, it has body roll for days. It doesn't handle at all. I love the one thing I did love about it was its utilitarian sort of
Feel.
built-in clunkiness.
Bulletproof kind of feel.
Yeah, it's got, you know, back in the day when I was in the Royal Air Force, we used to call something squaddy proof, because if it could survive being handled by an army squaddy, then you know it can survive pretty much anything. And the G-Wagon has that feel. You can't just close the door on it. You have to bluxum the door
Yeah.
to get it closed.
There's that.
You can't just close the boot. You have to murr it. You know, everything is just heavy and chunky and needs a strong hand to sort of operate it, which is great. And I love that element about it. And I love the fact that it's got locking diffs and stuff for going off-road with low-profile tires. I don't know why you'd need that.
Yeah, that's a bit.
But it is just a silly thing.
it sounds great. I mean,
It sounds great. It is surprisingly, well, rather worryingly quick in a straight line.
But how old is the Gelandewagen design, basically, right? As a
it's-
shape.
but I mean, that's a
old.
been
newer
old, eh?
Galant. That's not the original.
from the-
original.
Yeah, but the
look.
shape is still.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I mean, it's
Underneath,
Still,
it's
Yeah,
still
it's based
pretty
on-
similar
is it
to
not
what
still
it
like
is.
a ladder chassis?
It's
Is it not-
technology
is it
from
not?
1970. Right?
Yeah, basically. So that's one of the things I drove. The interior is very comfortable, and you know it drives.
Functional.
It
It's cool,
cruises
though.
down the highway.
I still think it's cool.
I don't know.
It's
I don't
got-
think cool is the word.
I
it's
think
got a
it's
cool
fucking
factor.
It's cool.
But I will say this: I was genuinely surprised at the number of waves and thumbs up and looks that you get in the G63, because I didn't think
That's what
it
a top
was.
G drives, dude. If
I
you're
didn't
looking
think
for
it was
top
such a
G,
big thing.
They
But,
were
you
actually
know,
trying to stop you
people
to
were
buy
like,
some
"Hey."
Coke.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
Maybe-
that's
yeah.
what happened.
Tried to flag you down.
Because I did get the
Tried
guy
to
going.
flag you down. You
know,
I could
see,
flag you
Yeah.
down.
like,
They were sniffing and like
Some dude was chasing me with a
they were
hypodermic needle.
blinking
and-
continuously and sniffing.
It makes sense now.
makes sense, eh?
Did you feel the need to like hang out in Sea Point after hours as well, all of a sudden, or in Camps
No,
Bay?
not so
really.
much. Not so much. I did get loads of guys coming up to the windows with shaking cash at me. I thought they were offering me petrol money because damn, that thing's thirsty. But
hoping.
yeah, maybe they were just trying to buy drugs. I don't know. But yeah, it was fun. Is it something I would buy? No, I probably still wouldn't. I think it's a wasteful and garish thing.
But that's part of its charm. That's,
It is
it's
part
kind
of its
it's meant to
charm.
be this over the top thing.
Which is part of its charm. It's just not me.
No.
So I think
I was getting worried there because, I mean, the car hasn't changed. I was worried that you changed.
No. I haven't changed that much.
But
Something
Neil,
else that
Neil apparently hasn't changed, but he's now come full circle and now he's admitting that he's actually that kind of guy. Neil is the kind of guy that actually may drive a G-Wagon.
it's because he
I
hasn't
would.
he hasn't driven a Camry in a while, so he's not grounded
need to be
anymore.
more.
Yeah.
I should have stopped spending so much time in Sea Point, you know. Here I thought I'm looking for Hot Wheels, and meanwhile I'm being
No,
influenced by
you
G-Wagons.
know what it really is? He's been driving the Jimny around, and he's been thinking to himself,
This is a mini G-Wagon.
what this Jimny really needs is 600 horsepower.
Exactly. And,
a
it needs to be-
G-Wagon
and it
body
needs
kit,
to be
you get
bigger.
them.
That's pretty much what it is, right? It is a big Gemini with 600 horsepower.
Yep,
That's essentially what it is.
That's what it is. It's a Jimmy
the,
wagon.
The other thing that I drove that I hadn't driven before that we did mention was your car.
Yes.
I drove an Alpha 4C.
But you didn't drive it much, though. You didn't.
I didn't drive it much, but I
You got
did
a feel
get.
for it.
I got a feel for it, and I must say, dude, it's crap.
No,
It's awful. You know, it's bumpy, it's uncomfortable, it's noisy,
small,
it's fucking slow, it's
loud.
noisy, bits falling off it, it leaks oil, you know, it smells funny.
Turbo makes funny.
People
Turbo
look
makes
at you and
funny.
throw feces in your general direction. It's just an awful experience.
Brings
Oh,
out the
that
worst-
coming from a Jag driver.
It brings out the worst in people.
Coming from a Jag driver.
You know, annoyingly, there are some good things about it. But yeah, I
Didn't
was actually
exclusively have a shit time with it.
no. I I always thought that it is actually a pretty damn good car, and I thought that it would be the kind of thing that I would enjoy driving, and it genuinely is. I like something that not a lot of people mention about driving them is that the carbon tub and that little sort of carbon fiber shell cocoon that you sit in, it's got like an atmosphere to it. So when you come into the studio, there's an atmosphere in here because it's dead quiet, you know, it's all insulated. There's no echo in here. There's no reverb. So there's a certain feel to it. When you get into that carbon tub, the fact that you're sitting in a carbon bubble, it's got a feel to it.
But I mean, it's exposed as well. You can see it. You can
Yeah,
touch
you can
the
see it and
chassis
you can
next to you.
touch the chassis but there's a way that it sounds in there.
It sounds different.
It sounds different. It feels different. Even jumping into something like a Lotus Elise, it doesn't feel like that
Doesn't feel
because
as
it's
special,
aluminium.
It doesn't feel that different.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel different.
It feels shed built compared
it
to
feels
pastel built.
very, very alien compared to
Yeah.
other cars.
Yeah.
But I quite like that. And when you're driving it, the sounds and the feel of it's a very visceral thing. It's
Yeah.
sensory overload.
Yeah.
It's constantly
You
talking
understand
to you.
now that having 3 pedals and a manual gearbox in that car would not work well.
No. Having
not be
3
fun.
pedals in that car wouldn't work. I really enjoy the power delivery, despite the fact that there is a little bit of lag, but not
But
a
it boosts
lot.
1.5 bars, so you're
So
going to feel a bit of lag.
you're gonna feel a bit of lag, but it's not an ugly lag, if I can put it that way. It's more character than a flaw.
Yeah,
if I can
it's
put
part
it
of
that way.
part of the experience.
Yeah.
It's like a go-kart that has a power
It
bank.
makes fantastic turbo noises. It really does.
Because the intake is right
yeah.
behind you, yeah.
And then the exhaust that's on that car is the same as yours.
Also
It
acts
sounds
perfect.
sounds brilliant. The steering is fantastic. I love the steering feel in that car. No power steering, obviously, and
Because most people complain about that, right? If you
yeah,
read
I mean a lot of people complain about that, but I actually think steering feel is something that's lacking so much in most new cars. Even sports cars that are really good sports cars are still lacking a little bit of feedback through the wheel. That car, obviously, it's completely unfiltered, so you get all that information through your hands. And going through a corner and holding on to it, it's a physically pleasurable experience. You can feel it. The gearbox is really nice, the engine's good, the brakes are good, and because it doesn't weigh anything, everything is amplified.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really nice feel to drive that thing. There's one thing. There's literally one thing that I absolutely hate about it.
What is that?
Do you want to guess? Because I'm quite interested to see if it's the same thing that you might hate about
The
it.
steering wheel.
No, the steering wheel's not my favorite shape or
Feels
design on it.
Steering wheel
But-
feels odd.
The steering wheel's fine. I can deal with the steering wheel.
I know what it is. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to guess.
The aircon,
No.
the radio.
No.
That looks at it.
Go
No, you
closer to
wouldn't-
the wheel. You were closer to the wheel.
This is the wheel.
The pedals.
The pedals are shit. No, I mean, that's part of the wheel.
The,
Pedals are shit.
the pedals are
No,
awful.
no. Pedals are awful.
Pedals are shit.
If
compared
that car,
compared to the Giulia, where you've got these big aluminium,
Aluminium
pedals.
pedals.
on
that's the thing.
Exactly.
I mean, Alpha has that.
No, they didn't have.
They
They didn't
didn't
have
have
it when
it with
the
the
4C
4C.
came.
So
earlier.
maybe they noticed on the 4C, this is a bit shit. Maybe we put it better in the road.
Sometimes it's a good, sometimes it's a shit.
I mean,
But if
there
they-
hasn't been, other
if
than
you
the
could put-
Giulietta, there hasn't been a Alpha with
Paddle
pedals
shift.
on the steering wheel, was there? The
no,
Silly
it's
Speed
only the
didn't?
Giulietta, yeah.
Yeah, it was only
The Silly Speed
Giulietta,
also had,
so-
but this is like buttons.
Yeah.
But in
But I
those
mean,
days,
I'm pretty sure there must be a way of just putting 2 micro switch, because essentially that's all it is. The 2 little
Look,
micro
they-
switches.
Oh,
they-
you
yeah.
get
There's
the
lots of-
clip-on thing.
No, there's
You
lots
can
of-
get
No,
clip-on
there's
extensions, but there
proper
must be a way
aftermarket- there's
to get
aftermarket
column-mounted.
options. There's aftermarket options. You can have a proper Momo wheel with column-mounted shifters and
If I
everything.
can get
It just costs a bit
column-mounted
of money,
paddles
but-
on that
Yeah,
would
you
be
can.
superb. And I think that would transform the driving experience. But the car that I drove didn't have the geometry blocks in that your car has.
stock.
It doesn't have the Pilot Sports that your car has. but I didn't really notice all of the things that everyone complains about.
Tram lines and all these
It
things.
doesn't tram
but-
line. I mean, it's
but
a
it's
sports
not-
car. It's gonna do a little bit
Yeah,
of
it's
that,
gonna
but
do a
it,
bit of a-
it,
If you're on
it
bad
really
road and
isn't
stuff,
as
but
bad as
It didn't really
everyone
bother
says
me.
it
It
was.
didn't really bother me.
Yeah.
The bump steer was a bit unnerving at high speeds. If you go into a corner
Yeah, I
and there's a
suppose it-
bump, then the steering suddenly goes light. But
'Cause
the
it is-
geometry fixed that. No,
But it's it's weird. Like, and the 4C also suffers from that. Is a lot of journalists are making U-turns about that car,
oh yes.
and I find that there's some, like, here and there. I mean, I know it's a car that you've owned, and everyone raved about the Honda S2000. But a lot of people have now come out and said, like, yeah, it's
Taking a
actually
U-turn
not,
on that.
Yeah, it's not that great.
Said
We
it
don't
wasn't
think
as
it's that
brilliant
great
as we said it
people
was.
said it was.
Of course,
So
they're
it's
wrong
funny-
because it is that great.
Yeah, I mean, it most probably is a great car, but it's quite, annoying, like, how guys can all of a sudden, like, 5-6 years later, then turn around and say, actually, we were wrong. This is actually a great car. And there's a
Actually,
lot
not
of
bad,
that
yeah.
going around. I feel like at the moment they get a. I don't know if it's
Well, I
kind
think
of
it
like
depends on
almost-
who's writing the check.
Yeah, but it's almost like
maybe
they
that's the
they
flavor
But it's
of
also
what the-
it's the popular opinion.
yeah,
is that it's
and then
crap.
they follow that.
So
and
then I
follows
can't
that.
say anything different to what Eva magazine or whatever someone else
luckily-
says. So then I
luckily-
would just say the same thing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I sometimes got criticized for with the articles that I wrote on Carbs and Coffee is that a lot of guys used to tell me that, it seems like you're being paid to write these, or you're being paid to advertise the car. And yes, a lot of the cars that I wrote articles about are cars that I'm selling sometimes. And so maybe the articles come across as a little bit flattering or pandering
Or
to
maybe you
to
wouldn't
it, or
buy
they-
a bad car to sell, for instance.
Yeah,
First of
Yeah.
all, there's that, but also, you have to take into account that these are all cars that they're proper sports cars, and at the end of the day, there are gonna be things about it, like the Alpha 4C. I hate the paddles on it. The Ferrari 308's got a really funny driving position. The 488 has too much power.
Well, all sports cars need flaws.
They-
And
they
a
all have
and-
flaws,
and,
but-
and something like an F8 doesn't have.
At the end of the day,
So-
if I want to write a bloody negative bashing article about it, I can go and do that. But that's just my opinion. So I try to focus on the things that make the car good. And if those are the things that resonate with you, then go and buy one. If those are not the things that resonate with you, then obviously you're looking for something else in the car. So go and buy something else. But there are very few cars that reach that sort of status, if you will, that are bad cars, I think. But Nikki, you were saying about cars that journalists liked bashing,
yeah, it's
but another car that I drove that we mentioned in the first season that I hadn't driven before is the new GR86.
that's a car I'm super interested in because
so
I've seen it. In
I owned the
person.
first one.
Yeah,
I loved it. I could understand why people were bashing on it, and it needs more power. And on the highway, it was useless, mostly because it's got this horrible dip in the torque curve, which everyone always
do
talks
that
about.
headers for. And
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, what happens is you're sitting on the highway, and on the highway at highway speeds, you are going to be sitting in that, dip. So the car's pretty much dead at that point. The new car, I'm delighted to say, they kept all the good stuff. I feel personally the steering is a little over-assisted. I like a little bit more weight
Yeah.
to the steering. But it's still got fairly decent feel for a modern car. Most modern cars have no feel, so it's still pretty decent. But the chassis is still good. It's still got excellent feel and roll characteristics. It's not super stiff. It's got a little bit of pitch to it, which is nice for when you want to throw it around.
Still,
It's still a street car.
and it's got
the-
quite a lot more power now.
The seat, the driving position, the gears are all brilliant.
Looks
Looks,
wise,
I
really
think
looks apart.
I think the looks are much better. The interior is a nicer design. It's a much better looking car on the inside. You've now got Apple CarPlay and all of that crap in it, if you need it or if you want it. But effectively, they've kept all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And the one thing that was maybe not so great, they've made better. That new engine is much more linear. It's still not nice and revvy like the old engine was. It's got a little bit more power to it, so it feels a lot more muscular than the old car did. And it's a fun thing to drive. I mean, honestly, Neil came to visit me the other day at work. I have an Aston Martin V8 Vantage sitting there with not high mileage, but some mileage on it. It's a 4.7 manual. It's selling for 650 grand.
Yeah.
I have the 86 sitting on the floor, selling at 699.
Yeah.
So similar budget, very different cars. I would be so tempted by that Aston. I would love to have that Aston, but if it was my money and I had to buy a sports car with that kind of budget, I'd probably buy the
Go
86.
for the 86, yeah.
And you know what Chris Harris said about the new 86? He called it a budget GT3 Touring. And that's freaking high praise. Very high praise,
a bold
actually.
I mean,
It's a very bold statement.
It's got such great handling characteristics. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
It genuinely is. A lot of guys miss the point of that car.
Yeah.
And I think that's why journalists bashed on the first one. But if you go and drive one on the right road and you drive it properly, just give it the chance to do what it does best. It's such a fantastic thing.
And I mean,
it really is.
I've been to the showroom as well the past 2 weeks or so. And it's standing
Yeah, the
behind.
only person who doesn't come and visit me is Andre.
Yes,
I've
but
been there.
Yeah, once.
No. At least twice.
At least twice.
At least twice.
But I mean, it's standing behind a F12. And you just look past the F12s and you look at this beautiful F12 and you just look past and you're like, that 86 is actually a fucking good looking car.
No, it doesn't look that out of place.
It doesn't look
that
that
out
that
of place between all those cars. And I mean, it's standing next to the Testarossa. The Testarossa looks like a Lego block compared to it now.
No, I mean, they've done well with that car. I've
They
got
really
a colleague,
did well.
a colleague in Joburg
The
as well.
only issue is the price. If you compare
What
it
is
with
the price?
So brand new, they're about 700-ish.
No, brand new list price. If you go to the Toyota website, the actual list price, I don't know if that's what you'll actually pay for one, but the list price is 803.
803.
It's a lot of money for a
But what
car.
did you think it was going to cost, though? I mean, look at what a
No,
GTI costs.
I know. I'll still buy it over a GTR or whatever, but
That or a
it's
new
just
GR
sad.
Yaris.
it's just, but
Okay,
it's just
Yaris.
sad. It's just sad
no,
to see.
no contest.
But it's just sad to see because I mean, Quentin, you bought your previous version brand new for like 300 something.
Yeah, my previous one I bought when they just came out, so I think that was like 2012-ish, and I paid 308,000
It's
for that
crazy,
car.
man.
But
Crazy.
that's not because the 86
it's
is
not that, it's
particularly
just
overpriced. It's
car
just that
prices
all
again.
car
Just
prices have
inflation, man.
gone berserk.
It's just what it is.
And maybe I'm just too poor. Well, I am.
I
too
have
poor.
that problem.
Yeah, of
I've
It's a
noticed
bad
that, yeah.
sickness, eh? It's like a sickness I can't shake.
It's awful.
But there's a
Poverty is like a sickness I can't shake.
Yeah, exactly.
And other nuggets of
Are
wisdom.
we going to
we
see
get
that on your
Wouldn't that be
manifesto
nice, eh?
before the
Yeah.
next election?
You
Poverty
like-
is a sickness I cannot shake. You know, like it's a,
you like check your bank balance and notice that you're poor. You just fuck it. I'm just gonna pop some penicillin and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, there's $1 million now. Where?
you one thing that I noticed the other on when we were chatting on one of the groups, one of the guys shared the lap time of Dion Joubert lapping the 4C. I mean, I mean, you lap faster than that now with the subtle changes
It's
that
all
you've made to
driver,
the car.
but,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
of course all driver, you know, smooth operator. But it was quite interesting for me, you know, looking at the other cars on that list,
Yeah.
you know, and looking at what you can buy them for now. It's like there's a lot of fairly decent,
Quick cars
capable
you can buy,
cars you can
yeah.
buy for a fraction of the price. Now, of
Yeah,
course,
yes.
I'm biased towards the 370 like Nissan, but 370Z. Of course, we know about you need to change your oil cooler, but that's minor
they're really
things.
nice cars, eh? A 370 is a very nice car.
I mean, for instance, that was also doing, in the hands of a capable guy. I mean, I'm not saying that's the measure of a fast car, but I'm saying like, for roughly 250, 300 grand, something that
You can pick
can
those
do
up really cheap for
what-
what it is.
doing 126s around Killarney.
Yeah, that's quick, man.
Yeah.
It's quite
But you can also buy a Magan.
Yes.
There's Magan with sporty ones.
Yeah.
The
RS.
turbo ones. Yeah. Some of those cars are also the same kind of 126s and 126s.
A lot of car actually out there. I think the thing is, I mean, new cars are crazy, but I think luckily there's still a bit of a nice selection of used cars you can buy and enjoy.
Yeah, depending on your budget, you can, for under 500 or under 400 or 300, you can buy some
you
nice,
can still be a baller on a budget, or a race driver on a budget,
not slow on a budget.
which is quite a good speaking point to chat about, because I believe we've all been thinking about what is the best budget racing we can do.
Yeah.
Speaking about the future of what we want to do.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, quick whip around the room. We're now in 2024. We're going to all have different motoring goals for the year. I'll kick us off because my goal's really easy. It's
We know what that is.
it's the same goal I've had since 2012. I'm yet to achieve it. But yeah, it's a fiscally challenged goal. shall
is
we
it to
say.
do with something that goes on a lake?
No.
I know where you're going with it.
But yeah, my goal is and always will be to finish my damn Harper.
You see, it's the canoe. Finish the canoe. You want to go
Because
swimming.
once it's finished, it's a phenomenal car. But I need to get it done, and thus far I've not been able to. The problem is, and I'm pretty sure anyone with a project car can relate to this.
Oh, yes.
A project car is not an investment, okay?
No.
You know that any money you're putting into that thing is essentially money that you're pissing out against a wall. And at the end of the day, because of that, it can never be a financial priority.
Yeah.
When the house needs something, the house
the
gets
kids
it.
needs
When the
clothes
kids
and-
need
and
something,
and the wife
they
needs
get
food
it.
before you-
When I need to eat something, that gets priority. So on
So
the
that's
list
easy.
of financial responsibilities, the
You need to eat
Harper is
something.
like
Every
right
time you
here
want
at
to
the
eat
bottom.
something, just say, "Oh, I need to spend it on the Harper." Just to reprioritize, bro.
Well, this
It
makes
takes
me.
a lot of money to look this good, mate.
I'm excited for the next episode because Neil hasn't driven a Harper yet, so I'm quite excited to try one myself.
You're giving away too much, dude. You're giving away
I
too
mean,
much. You
it
gotta
gets
keep
people excited, you know.
Gets the people going.
How do we
Give
get
the
people to come
people-
back to listen to episode 2 if you're just going to give everything away in episode 1?
I mean,
Talk about Camrys.
This is not how
That's how we
television
get them come back.
Gotta
The
keep
dashboards of 90s Toyotas, basically.
But yeah, I would like, in terms of other motoring goals, I would like for the podcast to do better in season 2 than it did in season 1. I think we are on track for doing that because while I've got a chance at the microphone, I just want to throw some things out here. Season 1 was proof of concept. I think we all realized that when we did it. Season 1 did a hell of a lot better
what do
than
you
any of
mean?
us
I
Is
don't
expected.
this like
realise that.
KPIs you're sitting on? This sounds like a performance review I go like every year. Like,
Wait, I didn't realize
Let's
that.
not go there because, quite frankly, you're underperforming here.
I didn't realize
Putting
that
you
was,
on probation.
I didn't
here.
realize that was understood. I did this to become famous, man. What do you mean? Like, what's the proof of concept thing? We weren't really planning on. What's
no.
this story now?
Well, we have now proven the concept, I think.
So we are now
and
famous.
We are famous. But it now means that we can start pulling in guests. And we've got some cool guests already lined up to come onto the show and talk about their experiences with various cars. And we've got some other exciting stuff that we're talking about possibly doing. I don't know if it'll happen or materialize this season, but certainly in the future. We're going to get into racing the four of us together, possibly a build series of some description, putting a car together to race. We are also in discussions about possibly buying a share of another race car that's already existing to get into endurance racing, all with like a budget in mind. It's like really fun and exciting stuff that we've been talking about behind the scenes that we really hope is going to make the podcast better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited. It's there's gonna be some cool stuff coming on the show, some cool people coming on the show.
Some cool
and
conversations.
It's gonna be different. We're injecting new flavor all the time. So yeah, keep
It'll be
coming
fun,
back.
man. Yeah.
Unless Niku's already told you everything.
I mean,
I mean, I'm putting both of you on probation.
Spoiler.
So we were trying to keep things quiet, and then he just came with his katana. Just cut it all off.
Andre, what are you planning on achieving this year?
I don't know, achieving this year.
Where do you see yourself in
Where
5
do you
years?
see yourself in 5 years?
well, my good sir.
My favorite interview question.
We need a couch for this place. If we can sit and
Whoa, we're not that type of podcast, guys. Whoa.
No, we're not
we
casting
getting-
couches.
Do not move a white. Do not move a white couch in here.
I know we have like a funny object floating around here, but we're not that type of podcast. I promise. It's
If you
all
can
about cars.
if you watch the video and you can spot the funny object, put it in the comments, because we're never going to mention it. We will never mention it, but it's there.
I
So
would
if you can
say-
see it,
I would
do it.
say it means good luck in Bali, though. So
Yeah.
it's a symbol of luck.
Well,
So-
it depends on what your perspective is, but it means good luck, I guess, in other places.
in prison, it might not be such good.
True.
Like you
So
see
yeah,
some
Andre,
extremely bad
Andre,
luck.
or if
you're
you in
motoring
Wilgenhof,
cars.
or if you in Wilgenhof.
Let's not go there.
Right, Andre.
Cut.
Let's get it back to car-related items.
My grandfather was there. Let's cut. Let's not-
Just,
Sorry, cut that out.
Yeah. So my goals would be. So last year my racing was a bit doing karting, and I was, I had 4 races in the year and 1 practice day. and one of the races included a national race as well.
and an
So-
injury.
Yes, exactly. So, I don't know. I need to make up my mind this year. Am I going to do it a bit more seriously, or am I going to rearrange some things? But I am at this moment looking more towards main circuit, driving something on the big track with the big boys. As much as I love karting, I think it's time for trying something else for a bit.
Move on.
I'll probably keep the kart around, and just get some practice. I love driving it, but the racing is a bit more expensive, and you need to be in it. You can't go half measures. You can't do any
Well,
kind
that's
of.
the thing. I mean, if you're doing racing and you're not doing it to be competitive, then
and the
you're
thing-
just essentially driving in circles.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's so the level of competition and fitness and stuff that you need is not like a 4x4 competition. I can rock up and drive up a hill if I've got the skills. You
Now
have
we're going to get the 4x4 guys writing us a whole bunch of emails.
about how fit they are and how much they practice with their brandy and coke to make it up there.
Do you know how hard I have to dig to get the tire out of the mud? Huh?
Anyway,
You're on your
That
own with
brandy
one.
and coke is not going to pour itself, bro.
and we're out of ice.
Who's
anyway.
going to carry the ice?
So particularly for karting, it's like riding motocross and you're not fit. You're kind of wasting your time. So, and it's not so much fun because it takes you another week or 2 to recover afterwards. So I'm probably gonna try and do something on main circuit. I want to drive as many things as I can and try as many race series and things as I can. There may be some rallying featuring soon that's got some involvement
Talking
from
about me giving shit away.
from a bunch of us. No, but just keep it.
But this is his goals,
Yeah,
dude.
keep it subtle. Keep it subtle, dude. Keep it subtle. That's
Subtle,
the
just
thing.
a little
Drop
morsels.
little hints, man. Something related to rallying may happen. So I want to do that, and I've done a bit of a upgrade to my sim rig recently. I haven't used
Serious
it.
upgrade.
I haven't used it in a year, but I've decided to do a bit of an upgrade. I've traveled.
So
to
you're
the
going to be
States.
doing some online sim racing in
I
a
am
series?
gonna do some more sim racing this year. I did.
Okay.
Last year I didn't do much. I worked too much, and then the previous year,
Like Mario Kart kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Mario Kart against Johan
Against
Free
Direct,
and Michael Steven and these folks.
I would actually pay to
we
see
love
that.
Mario
I
Kart.
would, I would like get a whole bunch of professional racing drivers to play Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, you need a direct drive wheel.
Direct drive wheel
Yeah,
for
for
Mario
Mario
Kart,
Kart, of
exactly.
course.
Can you
Like a
imagine the
sequential
force
shifter.
feedback when you hit one of those banana peels?
The sequential shifter and everything. So I upgraded a bit. So I've got a decent piece of kit there finally.
Nice.
So I want to do a bit of more racing, and it keeps you sharp and it's fun and it's something that you can do. You can do that if you're not fit and have some fun with it. And it's
So-
not that serious.
I don't know if this is a problem that needs solving or whether it's just something that I think we should try and push a little bit. Something else that we have discussed pushing a little bit in this series is getting people involved in motorsports. Even if it is just to go and watch races and stuff, because it's actually a fun day out for the whole family, you know? Even if you're not that into racing, it's a nice social scene to be a part of. But do you think that motorsports in South Africa has a sort of aging problem where most of the guys now on the grid, they're older guys. There aren't a lot of younger drivers getting into it.
It depends. I don't think that's quite true. I think the problem is it's firstly a money problem. There's a money problem that motorsport's very expensive and things aren't getting cheaper. Everything's getting more expensive. The economy's a bit tight. That's the biggest problem. There are lots of kids. If they're karting, there's lots of kids coming in. These kids move up to GTI Challenge and all these things. There are certain serious sports in GT. Lots of older guys, mostly because you probably need to be an older guy to, afford a GT3 car or so. These are successful businessmen. So the age is more related to the money there, I think. And then obviously classics is more pandering to the older folks. Will enjoy the 70s Cortinas more than the 20-year-old kid today.
I quite enjoy a 70s Cortina.
But you're on the older side of that equation.
Does that make me old now?
So, so I think that's happening.
Young man.
So one of the areas that I've been looking at and that a few of us are excited about and is endurance racing. And you get your I almost said melons. You get your 24 hours, your melons racing. That's a different podcast. You get the lemons, 24-hour lemons.
You can
where
join Neil on the couch for that one.
where you take something cheap and cheerful or cheap and nasty, and you do a 24-hour race or a 9-hour race with it. And I think that's a lot of fun, and we will definitely be pushing hard to do something like
Look,
that.
I think I'm not giving too much away by revealing that we are going to be involved in that in some way or capacity.
We're definitely going to
How
pursue
exactly
that
it's going
this
to
year.
happen is not set in
The
stone yet.
podcast will be involved, whether it's our name
The
or driving
podcast
or
will
cars
be
or something.
there.
But we'll be involved in that event in some way. But there's also the South African Endurance Series. That's the national endurance event. And I'd really want to make a plan and try to do an event, whether it's with a car that we own or something else. But that's slightly different. That's less.
I mean, the
this
nice thing
content
about the endurance thing is that it's something where you can buy a seat almost.
Yes,
you
no,
don't
you
have
can
to
arrive and
own or
drive,
run a car. You can arrive and drive.
Mind you. It's not cheap,
No, it's
mind you,
not cheap. But at the same time, you get the value for what you pay.
But what you need to understand is it's not cheap, but if you own a race car, anyone that's owned a race car, owned, maintained and stored and whatever a race car, or a like racing carts that we had, it costs a lot more to own a race car.
I was going to say, those guys are not making money out of you.
Than you think it is. Exactly. They're just basically covering their cost. So yeah, that's definitely an option. And what I like about the arrive and drive kind of thing is that you can go try something out. You can drive a car, do a race with it, and if it's not quite your cup of tea, or if you like something more powerful or something faster or flatter or whatever, then you can move to that. Where if you buy a race car and you invest in it, now you're
stuck with that
100,000, 200,000, 500,000 into this exercise, and now you're like, I actually like karting more, or actually want to go bike racing or something else, and then you're stuck, and then it costs a lot of money to get out of that again. So I think that's a great idea for people to do that. So yeah, I'd like to see if I could do arrive and drive, or I've been looking at some race cars, looking for something light that is cheap to maintain, but light and kind of high cornering speed. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. So I've been looking around a bit. Almost bought a car end of last year, but I'm kind of still looking around. So yeah, that's Unsure how things are going to end up this year, but that's the thing.
So, Nico, we know your biggest motoring goal this year is to fix the aircon on your Alpha.
Yes, and that's already started, but
Is it?
It's already stopped again. I've already given up again. I don't know. It's so.
What about bringing some of your fleet of cars down to Cape Town? Because you've got
Exactly.
Yeah, got a lot of
you've
stuff
got a
to play
bunch
with.
of
The
cars.
big
but none
migration,
of them
the
are here.
Serengeti.
Yeah, I need to do that. So the only issue with that is space for me. I need to buy a house, but now we planning trips again, etc. So once I get a place with space, I want to get everything here. But it sounds like I'm whining a lot about
Yeah.
stupid issues,
You
basically.
have-
but
You have first world problems there,
but
bro.
yeah, it's really first world problems.
Too many cars, nowhere to put
because
them.
the Mercedes is basically done. That's on my name. That's basically done.
Oh, my Mercedes! I
Oh.
don't have space
Miss-
for.
It's the best daily driver.
But Mercedes
in
in
the
a remote town.
world. And yeah, like there's. I really want to get them down.
So
here.
how many cars have you got in Bloom that need to come here?
So it's the Merc, it's the E50, and it's the Junior. That's
Well,
the main.
you really
And the
only
bikes.
need to worry about the
Yeah.
Merc and the Junior then, because the E30
The
will
E30,
have been
somebody
stolen
else
by now.
Somebody else has taken care of the E30
and the
already.
jet ski.
on
We
your
need to
bill.
get the jet ski.
Ah,
That's
wait,
what's
yeah,
new.
flip.
We need the jet ski. We're still waiting for the
Freaking
jet ski,
water
man.
Scooter.
and we need to figure out how to get a dog to drive it around a lake.
Yes.
Yes. The RAF can tow the jet ski.
The RAV can
Let-
sort a jet
so
ski. you see,
obviously
so
no one will have heard that story, but at some point or another I
Yes.
will
release that.
release that. But there's a
The
there's a
dog,
very interesting
yes.
story about a dog and a watercraft that didn't make it into last
episode.
season. But I think at some point or another we need to cut
But
that
it's-
together.
that's
and
gold.
It's gold. It is brilliant.
Like in a month when we get 1 million listens, we need to drop that one.
Yeah,
so
I
everybody
think
can hear.
I think let's do
TT.
that. If we can get to
10,000 streams.
3 million.
10,000 is maybe a bit of a reach for. Well, if we can get to
What are you saying, man? We're going for 1 million.
going to get to 1 million streams. No,
Million
Luckily,
streams.
luckily
1
my story
million
is safe
streams.
then. That's a good thing. I guess,
Brilliant.
I think at the end of the season, if we've hit our goals that I've set for us, I will cut that story together and we'll release it as a sort of
Sounds like
bonus
a plan.
15-minute
Definitely
special.
need to do a bonus.
Sounds like a
Because that was hilarious.
Yeah.
that was a winner.
That was like the best part of the worst episode that we've ever done. I
But
think.
yeah, so I would like to buy a house in Cape Town and actually get space for once and get all my cars here. If it's gonna happen this year, I don't know. It's gonna all depend because we're doing like a big family trip, etc. So I kind of want to like enjoy.
See, once
that
you
and
start
not-
traveling, it doesn't end. It's now your
No.
second trip in less than a year.
Yes, but
And once you start
after this one, I told everyone listening. After this one, I want to buy my house first. Like, unless I've got a big project in the works that is hopefully gonna up my business as well. You know, so maybe life can throw anything at you.
So
eh?
G-Wagon, boom, boom.
Top
S-
G.
Sometimes
Top G.
maybe good, sometimes maybe you
Yeah,
know.
but maybe
so-
shit. So, but what I've taken from this is we've got a problem, a general storage problem.
we've got a general
Oh,
storage
yes,
problem
there is
because
a very important thing on my side as well is I have a junior, my 2-liter GTV in Heidelberg. My dad's been saying this. Now we must get this thing fixed and we must get it done.
and I've got a
So-
motor for you.
So my dad, no, the motor's fine. So my dad must just. There is another race car that we can talk about.
You're talking
There's a-
about the junior, not
No.
the
So
race
Julia,
car.
there's another race car that we can talk about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, anyway.
Okay. So we
So
can
we
do
just
that.
need a few odds
So,
and
yeah,
ends.
so why the hell are we like looking to buy stuff, other stuff? There's so
That's
many
actually
like,
a good point. That's actually a
There's so
good
many
point.
stuff
So
we
we
can
actually
just
have a
fix.
race car that's just being stored in
between
Heidelberg. I forgot I have the race
between
car.
the four of us, we have like 12 race cars already.
Already, yeah.
So I forgot we have a race car. We must go get that, put an engine in it, and we can do something
Yeah,
with it.
But I've
So-
got a race car that's here.
Yeah.
You see, so this could be our endurance car.
Racing to finish it.
Has anyone ever made a Alpha Rally car?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Julia was a rally car.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
That might be a
Options.
good idea. We've got the endurance car, and then we've got the rally grassroots
Rally car.
car.
So what are we gonna use? What can the X1 or what can work for a clubman's car?
Clubman's
We
car.
can do the rally sprint with the X1.
Like, I don't think my wife's insurance provider will be very happy with seeing that on their GPS tracker.
That's going to be a
like
very interesting diagram to draw on the back of your claim form.
So I was coming through the first checkpoint, and then I hit the table with the medic.
And then that's when the first accident happened. The second accident.
Safari builds are very popular, so I guess we have to change something into like a
A
bit of a
safari
higher
build,
up sort of.
I haven't actually seen an X1 Safari build. That would be funny.
I'd be quite keen to do a safari
Aussie
build
builds.
on the Jag.
That would be very cool.
Jag
Some Aussie
X-Type
rims.
station wagon.
That would be cool, man.
Safari.
Yours is the 4-wheel drive, right?
No, it's two-wheel drive.
It's okay.
Front-wheel drive,
okay.
so it's the worst. But
It's
anyway.
a Jag. It would have anyways been two-wheel drive by now. Rear diff would have leaked, and it's
That'd be ridiculous.
You would have forgotten your wallet in the diff, so
How do you put your wallet in the... Anyway. Any other
Anyways,
motoring
yeah,
goals that you've got?
So other than my parking issue, I would really like to get into motorsport. The most motorsport thing I've basically done is some serious sim racing, and here and there driving some stuff. But I want to really get into some form of motorsport this year, and whether it
Do you want to take a trip? You buy a house and start motorsport.
well,
that business idea of yours must be freaking solid, my friend.
That's proper, man.
it's
He's building a
good to,
trading platform.
it's good to dream.
AI-based
Is it a
trading
forex
platform.
bot?
Yeah.
I mean, if it works,
I can
it
neither
works.
confirm nor deny this.
But yeah, but I mean, not something like stupid expensive, like some cheap, like that
Yeah,
car you're looking at.
so Neil and I the other day, we were thinking of, we need to get something we can race.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we went to look at a Corolla for not a lot of money, but it had some nice bits. It had a TRD steering wheel, and it had
Proper rally rims.
It had a proper rally rims and rally tires.
and
it
that's
did
getting into racing for like
It is-
sub 20 grand.
It was like something like 25 grand or something like that. But the body was a bit rough.
Only we knew.
But the biggest thing is, so it needs a bit of work.
If
so
only we knew a body shop.
If only
Yeah,
we
exactly.
knew
Damn.
if only we knew someone who was a master at panel beating,
Yeah.
then one could
Wait a
always make a plan, I think. But the one thing that we figured out is for our goals is that having something without papers is a bit of a
it's tricky.
pain.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a car trailer and you've got people who can do that for you and you cart your car around. We are at that place where if we've got something like to play with, we'll need to drive it somewhere, leave it somewhere. So, and if you can't drive it on the road, it becomes a bit of a
Yeah, it
pain.
needs to
we
be
are
on the road.
really full of shit.
Why?
We want a car that has papers, that's like 20 grand.
It must be fast, it must be reliable and cheap to run.
Yes.
Exactly. We're
I
not
don't
asking for
think
much.
that's too much to ask.
not asking for
quite
much.
frankly.
No,
Exactly.
Never.
Now, the transport is a big thing, especially
Yeah, it is a
if you're gonna have to get stuff fixed.
Yeah.
Transport
the
and
car-
storage.
I mean, but also getting it to specialists to do work, to get work done.
Yeah.
I mean,
Only
these
we
things-
knew a specialist as well.
Yeah, but if you move a car around a lot, it becomes a pain to trailer it everywhere. Because trailering a car isn't
Yeah.
fun either. It's
Yes.
a stressful
Yeah, no, I hate
thing
that.
to tow a car
That's
around.
how kind of like it was a cool. I mean, it was quite exciting. I think it would have been a nice basis. I mean, but one of us knew should have had a trailer and like a decent space to have a workshop, kind of like
And- Also, at the
At home.
point of buying this car, has anyone considered where we're going to park it?
Not yet.
Because Nico already has a fleet of cars that he doesn't
Yeah.
have parking for.
But this is a common problem, right? We don't have space to park our cars.
Yes,
I think all
that's
of us
the
has
issue.
that problem to an extent. I know
I think
you want to
all
buy
petrol
another
heads
track
have
thing
that
and you
car.
don't have
So-
space for it.
yeah.
If someone's listening with a warehouse we can rent on the cheap.
On the
Please
cheap being
email
the
us.
operative.
Yes.
There are, just to make it clear, there are warehouses to rent out there.
I tell you what,
exactly.
I tell you what. If you are out there and you've got a warehouse with space for a couple of cars that we can park there, we will
We'll take
pay you with a big shout out on the podcast.
Yes.
Yes.
We will mention you by
We
name.
will see that as sponsorship of an episode.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've actually got to. I mean, I think one thing we also need to do a bit more of this year is, I mean, is actually do a few more runs. There's a lot of things that we
Yeah.
can do, like just getting together, grabbing a coffee, enjoying some of the roads around Cape Town. We've all got like
Yeah,
Nice,
we did
I
it.
mean,
we
or
actually
act- or
did a
act- I
great
mean,
run
yeah,
in
I mean-
January.
Yeah,
is a lot
the
of fun.
Carbs and Coffee run in January was
No,
a
it
good
was
one.
very
Excellent.
fun. Me and you enjoying ourselves.
It wasn't
it
a
was-
massive turnout, but it was a nice group. It was a nice size.
It was a
group.
nice drive.
Yeah.
And
And
the
it was
route is
a
also
it was
nice.
an
Route's
awesome
great.
You
road.
do need a bit of time because it's quite a drive.
It was quite a long drive.
You know, covering a few passes on the way, which is great. But then you kind of have to. It's half the day gone. Right?
Yeah.
But it was good fun. We
Yeah.
must do that more.
That was really fun.
Met some interesting people there. Very cool.
Yeah, no, it
future
was
guests,
a
maybe.
good. Oh, some future. Ooh, giving away too much.
Yeah,
I
I
met
think
a person.
we met a person.
what would be quite cool, I think, is as well as you know, maybe to do during the year plan like a bit of a motoring weekend. We call it like we say like no before the second season starts. And yeah, we are already busy with the second season, but you know maybe doing like a bit of a drive out to Route 62. We talked about stay somewhere, enjoy some of the local the mountain
Yeah.
passes, and then
Only a
you know take a drive.
motoring
back.
weekend was coming up where we driving up a hill.
That's
Yeah,
in
we're not
May,
driving
dude.
up a
That's
hill.
like almost next year.
That's next.
Hey, dude.
It's also
It's
like
close
different.
enough.
I mean, the stakes
So-
there are
So,
considerably
by the way,
higher.
I didn't hear anyone mention their plans for this year, including Naisna or Samoa
Yeah,
or
so
anything of the sort.
you-
Well, I've not
guys
had a
have-
chance to like
you-
say to
you've-
share why
you've-
my.
You've actively entered your name for
Yes.
Samola
I've
for the hill climb.
accidentally
You
clicked
accidentally
accidentally.
did it
He didn't-
because
he
I
didn't
don't know,
mention
you were
anything
drunk or
about
whatever.
I wanted to do it, but I'm too chicken to put my car in.
It was more than one button to push.
Well, I mean, let's see. I mean, like I've been there once, so I mean, Samola's got a. I mean, the sort of entry criteria is quite unique of what they want in
Yeah,
terms
and
of
they-
if it fits in with the ethos of the event. You know, if it's what
But I
the
also think
spectators want to see.
they're very weary of the idea that it becomes an event where there's just
Repetitive.
50 guys with
same car,
skylines
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
cruising up the hill.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they want to avoid that,
Yeah,
which
and I don't
is a
think
good
they
thing.
want like slow cars like mine. Really, that
No, but I think
something
it's
different.
it
it's
still
like
needs to be a spectacle.
You know, my
but
entry
it's-
gets rejected every year
Better
because
drive the hell
a
of it.
diesel Jag station wagon would just wipe the floor.
No, they just know you're not
So-
going to pay the entry fee. That's why.
being a Jaguar.
Sorry, James.
Sorry, old chap. Can
Bit
I
of
say
an-
sorry.
bit of an issue with the
sorry, old
wallet.
chap. The check's in the mail, old chap.
I must say, that's a rather lovely flag you have there. Mind if I just hold on to it for a moment?
Mind if I just try out your diesel? Yeah, it seems to be very
Goodness
nice.
me, that seems like a lot of gold on that trophy. Do you mind if I just,
Have a
just
look at it.
Have a
I'll
closer
take it
look.
away and polish it for you, shall I?
I mean,
I don't mind doing it.
regardless of the entry, I think we're going right. I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of like the plan. We're going as spectators.
Yeah, at
So,
least.
Yeah, I mean, we're
At the-
definitely
at the
going.
At minimum,
Yeah, we're
at minimum.
definitely going, yeah.
We
I would
will
have
be
I would
there.
have liked to do it in a different car, to be very honest. But yeah, is
It's
what it
something
is.
that is
That
a
is
bit more
a
like
bit
track
more
focused.
competitive.
track
Yeah.
track focused.
Track day
a
kind of
little
score.
little better off
If
the
only we
line.
knew such a vehicle that's kind of canoeish. But
I've
yeah,
got a car like
That's
that.
his entry.
I know, but it would have been
Yeah.
cool to support Quentin going up there. And
So
Harper. That
I
would
seem
have
to
been
be the
cool.
only one of us three who does.
You're the closest one with a race car.
One
but
of,
Yeah,
one
but
of,
I
one
mean,
of
well-
us three. Who's the out? Who's the one?
I can't.
Oh, apparently.
I can't math.
I'm-
Okay.
Somebody got this.
I'm
now.
a ghost.
One of us
I'm a
three.
ghost
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
machine.
I'm trying to figure out who's the out.
Yeah.
I'm a smelly IT
Depends on
ghost
what
in
he
the
says,
machine.
though.
No, Neil's on probation. So I'm the only one out of us four who doesn't have any sort of personal motorsport goals for this year.
That's true.
Interesting. You just want to
What's
get
wrong
your
with you?
No,
motorsport
you
What
know-
are you going to do
vehicle
with
complete.
the
with
thing
the
is-
Harper when it's done?
My Harper has always been, the idea with it has always been that it'll be a track day car. I'll do track days with it.
Track day is motorsport related.
Yeah, but I'll never race it competitively.
That's fine.
You see, in case you guys haven't noticed this, and I hide this very well, I am an asshole at heart. And the thing
No,
is,
you
when
don't hide it that well, but
I know, but I know I'm an asshole. So I know that if I got into a competitive environment where motorsports is concerned, I would turn into the most insufferable anus that you possibly know.
Because you are a driving god, obviously.
Obviously. And I would lose a lot of friends, basically. And I know that I would bankrupt myself to get to the front of the grid and to be the best that I can be out there. And it will become an obsession rather than an enjoyment. And I don't want that.
Well, it can be both, right, Neil?
It can
I
be
mean, it
both,
depends
but
on. I
the
mean,
thing is, I know my own personality, and I know I would ruin it for myself. And the day I ruin driving for myself is the day that I just clutch out, dude, because that's...
You just got to close yourself in here and let the oxygen run.
Yeah.
but I mean, there's a lot of ways that you're aware of it. So I mean, there's a lot of ways. That, you don't. I think you can enjoy a lot of things motoring wise. I think that's also the point of what we've been discussing. We're doing different things. It's not about being competitive. It's about actually getting out there.
Well, you can
experiencing
do
different
that's
things.
why
and-
hill climb or
That's why I'm
track
quite
days or whatever.
keen.
Yeah.
I'm quite keen to do something like a hill climb.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
I'm quite cool.
And that's
cool
also
with.
competitive, but it's not,
It's
door to
not
door.
door
Yeah,
to
so
door stuff.
do a time
I'm
attack
also
event.
Yeah.
quite keen on doing something like the Lemons, because it's a motorsport event, it's a competitive event, but it doesn't take itself seriously. There's almost an honor to losing it.
What do you mean?
Try and finish it somehow. That's the
In it
thing.
to
like-
win it, man.
In it to win it, first from last. But yeah, I just don't want to get to a point where I am obsessed with winning rather than just driving and having fun and enjoying it. And I know I'll get there, so I don't want to get into it.
Makes sense. I mean, we know if you start driving, obsession is not very far away.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the
You
thing
start
is,
running lines on a Monday morning.
yeah, I mean, the thing for me is what I realized last year is like I've kind of like really wanted to get heavily into karting, and then my height and is not conducive to a proper sort of. You're a bit compromised in seating position where you sit in the cart.
You're never going to be a Royal Ascot jockey, if we can put it that way.
No. And I actually got an injury that literally took me from going into the direction where I want to be right back to where I basically was when I started karting. And that's also the thing about, I think, about motoring. For me this year, I realized like, I want to continue the karting because I like what it teaches me about driving. If I race at a few occasions,
It's the
purest
purest form of racing and driving. that
it's
you can
visceral,
get.
and
And
that's
I'll down that hill.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I finally got back into the car at the beginning of this year, and finally, I could use my arm again the way I should. I realized like, and it was funny enough, right after we went to go and look at that car, and I thought to myself, wow, I have all of this, right? I have access to this already.
Yeah.
Why would I now,
Wanna buy
chase something
something
else?
else.
And I think like something for me, like, once you stepped in a car and you felt how that feels at that limit, you have to kind of like change your mind. If you're going to go buy something like that, like, okay,
You
it's
have to
completely different.
recalibrate. It's a different experience.
Completely different experience. And I would do it for the fun,
Yeah.
for the sake of also, so like, doing something cool for the podcast.
Yeah.
And I think something that we both quite passionate about is I've also got this sort of thing about, proving to people that motorsport is in some way or form accessible. So I think it would be
And
quite
that's
cool
another
to do it
goal
like
is-
in that.
Is showing people is this year what would be cool is where we can is showing off how people can get into motorsport. Like
Yeah.
how do you get into
Yeah.
it? Like you said,
Yeah.
you're sitting here. We want to tell people you want to know about it. And we have. So yeah, how do you get people into motorsport and all the options you have that are maybe not that expensive but you guys know that motorsport still costs the same as it always does. It hasn't changed, right?
Very expensive no matter what.
No, it still takes everything you have.
Yep.
Well,
They-
on that
they always-
disappointment.
They always say, the best way to make a small fortune,
Yeah.
or the quickest way to make a small fortune, is to start with a very large fortune and then build a race car.
Yeah.
That is true. And we all know this.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, guys, I think that's a pretty decent catch up. I think we're all on the same page now. I think that there's a lot of exciting stuff coming for the podcast and for us this year. And we hope that you guys are out there listening are going to join us for this trip, because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And season 2 is going to be a good one.
Yes, sir.
About to get real.
It's about to get real. So, stay classy.
Stay
classy,
classy,
San Diego.
Hoi milies.
Hoi milies.
What was that one? Stay real, McNeil.
shit I did over there with my scooter. A red robot isn't a red robot unless you want it to be a red robot.
I drove a Camry.
Driving something on the big track with the big boys.